It says that we are live, and we are live. So everybody, as y'all coming in, hope everyone's had a great weekend, had a great Monday thus far. Let's get to it. Let's get started. Let's get into the business that we came here to get into. So everybody who is checking in, good afternoon to you, good evening, good morning, wherever you happen to be checking in from. Go ahead and shout yourself out in the comment section. Let's get to it. Y'all know what we do here. If you don't know, I'm explaining to you in a moment. I'm gonna give everybody like 30 seconds to get started. Sorry we started this later than I actually planned. I was gonna do it at 4:30, but we ended up starting later because I was doing other things. But we here now, so that's all that matters. Young King 773 was good. Coach Kev checking in. What's going on? Mozart Gates, what's going on? As y'all check in, tell me your name and location in the comment section, and then we're gonna get into it. I'm gonna give everybody like 30 more seconds. Then we're going right into what we're going into. Ryan checking in over on Facebook. I got Facebook over here on my left, Instagram over here on my right. I need like two more devices, so then I could do YouTube Live and Periscope Live, and I could do them all at the same time. Is there any other platform that lets you do live? So I need to buy me 2 more devices, so then we can do all 4 lives at the same time. Or somebody can make an app that does all of them at once. That'd be the best thing. We got Chris checking in from Vancouver. Shout out to Vancouver, Washington. Shout out to Bradley Anderson from Kitchener. Where's Kitchener? I never heard of that place. Where's Kitchener at, Bradley Anderson? So as y'all checking in, while we wait for Bradley to tell us where Kitchener is, let me let y'all know who I am. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day. Former 9-year professional athlete, author of 27 books. I've done 4 TED Talks. I've created over 15,000 pieces of content over the last 15 years. It's more than anybody you can name. And all of this is under this umbrella, this whole philosophy that I created that's called Work on Your Game. It's all about taking the mentality, the mental tools necessary to get into the top 1% of anything. I did it in sports, and how to use those mental tools in business, how to use them in life, and how to use them in sports if you happen to be an athlete as well. And Bradley said Ontario is an hour from Toronto. Okay, shout out to everybody up in Canada. Shout out to Canada. John Marco checking in from Toronto. So we got a bunch of Canadians in here today. Shout out to Canada. Dave from Orlando, Florida. Shout out to Orlando. Shout out to the NBA bubble. Bradley said 45 minutes to an hour. All right, from Toronto. All right, that's what's up. So listen, everybody, what we talking about here today, Ryan's checking in from the Philippines. Shout out to the Philippines. What we talking about here today, as voted on by the people who voted, I don't think everybody voted, but from the people who did vote, they voted on me talking about this topic here today. We got LA in the house as well. Shout out to LA. The topic is how to formulate and present a logical argument. Now, I made several points on this one, so I want to make sure we get to all our points, so I'll make sure I don't go too long on any one individual point. But the reason why I'm even doing this one here today is because it seems like these days, and y'all can tell me, when I browse through social media, or I see people, or I talk to people who are talking about any of the social unrest or the social justice stuff going on, even COVID, people couldn't agree on anything, right? People can't agree on the social justice stuff. People can't agree on COVID. People cannot agree on politics. People can't agree on, I don't talk about religion that much, but people probably don't agree on that either. People can't agree on, what else is there? Every topic, people just can't agree on stuff. And that's fine when people don't agree, because everybody's not the same, right? We're not all robots. However, what happens is when people start debating these things, and people start, somebody's really strongly on this side, or you really don't like what somebody said on that side, then you start throwing your grenades at the person on the other side of a conversation or other side of an argument. And the problem with doing that, even though it may feel good in the moment, is that it's really a Pyrrhic victory, even if you quote unquote win. If you can out-talk the other person, or you shout them down, or they just run out of material, you feel like you won, but it's a Pyrrhic victory because you don't actually change anybody's mind. You're not convincing anyone of anything, and you haven't made any progress. All you did was use up all that energy, and you got that temporary victory, but it doesn't do anything for you in the long run. So what I aim to do here today is to help everyone, no matter what your opinion is on whatever topic, even if you don't have an opinion, maybe you're just an observer, but whatever your opinion is on any topic, how to formulate an argument when you're talking to someone who does not agree with you, someone who has challenged your point, someone who is just not feeling what you're saying, or let's just say you don't agree with a certain stance or a certain idea. For example, when I came on here and talked about did the NBA players boycotting the game, was that the right thing? I wasn't debating against an NBA player. I was just looking at what they did, and I was formulating an argument as to what I thought about it. I wasn't saying it was necessarily bad, also saying it wasn't good, but I was giving my points as to what I meant. And I think this is something that a skill that a lot of people don't have. Actually, I know it's a skill a lot of people don't have, because when I have conversations with people and they show that they lack these skills. And when I get into this, you'll understand exactly what I mean when I explain it. So I think this could help everyone. If you listen closely to what I'm going to say here today, you would really help yourself. You could take notes. But I will probably redo this in a even more cleaned up fashion on my masterclass, which is called Work on Your Game, which comes out every single day on Apple Podcast, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play. Y'all know all the usual suspects. So go look that up on your favorite podcast app. It's called Work on Your Game. Y'all could probably figure that out. So let's get into this, because we got a whole lot that we need to say here today. The topic, once again, is how to formulate a logical, airtight argument with someone or against a concept with which you are not seeing eye to eye. Point number one, most important thing you gotta do is keep it simple. Keep it simple when you are making an argument. In other words, if you are, any of you ever go see a politician give a speech, if Joe Biden or Donald Trump goes and gives a speech somewhere, they're going to keep it very simple. They may say a whole lot of things. They might talk for an hour and a half. You go to a conference, you see a speaker, they might speak for 2 hours, but a good speaker is going to keep it simple. They're going to give you some central themes and central ideas that you need to keep in mind. Usually the central theme or idea is somewhat related to whatever the title is. So today, what is the central idea? How to make an argument. It says it right there in the title. So I'm going to say a lot today, but the central idea is I'm explaining to you how an argument happens. So when you are giving people things, don't ask them to try to remember all 15 points that you made, even though you might have 15 points, but one concept. If you can get it down to one simple concept, that's great. If you got to do more than one, then try to do three, because people can remember things in threes, but keep it very simple. Any of you listen to my masterclass every day, my audio masterclass, you notice usually I give you 3 points. Sometimes I go a little bit further, but there's always one central campaign. And anyone who is good at getting their point across, getting an argument across, they focus on one main idea. When Barack Obama was running for president, what was his campaign? Yes, we can. That was his whole campaign. Yes, we can. Now, did he say other things? Did he give a whole bunch of speeches? Yes, he did. But what did he talk about in those speeches? Nobody knows. Nobody remembers. It was 10 years ago. But the central theme of the campaign, I remember this. I didn't have to Google it. Yes, we can. That is one simple idea. Everybody can remember it. And does it encompass everything Obama was about? Yes. What he was about was yes, we can. Yes, we can vote for a black guy. Yes, we can do something different in this country. Yes, we can elect somebody who doesn't even have that much political experience. Yes, we can choose Obama, even though Hillary has way more experience and she was running for the Democratic ticket. Yes, we can. Everybody remembers that, and it worked. All right, now that is not necessarily, I'm not saying that's why he won, but I'm saying that's why he won, because he kept it very simple. Now, who's our current president? Donald Trump. By the same token, and again, this is not about whether you agree with or disagree with Donald Trump, but what's his campaign slogan? Everybody knows it, even better than you know Obama's. Make America great again. Is it a simple slogan? Yes. Is it easy to understand? Yes. Is it easy to remember? Yes. Now, you could say it's open to interpretation. People could think that means a lot of different things, but everybody knows what it is. That's the point that I'm making. What's Joe Biden's campaign slogan? Does anybody know? Yeah, that's why Joe Biden is not going to win. So just in case y'all were wondering, he's not going to win. I'm not saying whether I want him to win or who I want to win. I'm saying he's not going to win because he doesn't have a central theme to his campaign. And if he does have one, he better start announcing it because nobody knows what it is. Nike. What's Nike's central theme to their campaign? Somebody tell me, what's the central theme to Nike's campaign? What's the central theme to Dre Baldwin's campaign? When I'm talking, what is the central theme? What's the central concept? I'll talk about a lot of stuff. What's the main concept? What's Nike's main concept? What's Barack Obama's main concept? What is Donald Trump's main concept? Everybody knows the main concept of what these people talk about. Anyone who is going to influence, exactly. Everybody knows Nike's. Nike's is just do it. Everybody knows that. All right, so work on your game. Everybody knows it. If you know who I am, then you know it's work on your game. So you need to narrow down your argument to a very simple concept, okay? Somebody said, Joe Biden said, if you're not black if you don't vote for me. Yeah, that's not going to work. It's way too long, and then people got to kind of think about what exactly does that mean. People are not as smart as you think they are, so don't. That one ain't going to work. Joe Biden better get one if he doesn't have one. I don't think he has one. So when you're giving your concepts, don't talk over people's heads. Don't use big words when you can use simple words. Don't talk too fast for people to comprehend. I'll give you an example. There's this guy, he's a professor, I believe at Georgetown. I think he's at Georgetown. Black man, his name is Michael Eric Dyson. Some of y'all may have heard of him. He's an author. He's written several books. He appears on media shows and all that stuff. He's probably, I haven't really heard a lot that he said over the last 90 days, but given what I have heard of him in the past, I'm sure he's on the strongly on the woke social justice side of things. Now, the reason I'm bringing up Michael Eric Dyson is because he's a very eloquent guy. He's very articulate. But my challenge with listening to Michael Eric Dyson is it seems like he's more concerned with the vanity of how great of a speaker he is than he is actually getting his point across. He uses all these really big words. He talks really fast. And I've even heard him brag about how good of a speaker he is when he's talking. Like he'll be in the middle of saying something and I'll be like, yeah, I'm nice with this. I'm nice with this. And then he'll just keep going. He gets into this flow. And it's almost like he's trying to talk. He's talking to show off for himself more than he is trying to actually inform his audience. And that's a challenge. If you're a really, really good speaker and you're really articulate and you really know your stuff and you really have a flow, that's all cool. But the point of speaking, of formulating an argument, is you need to get a point across to people. So make sure you are not overshadowing the actual material with your own eloquence. All right, don't use big words when you can use small words, because not everyone in your audience is as smart as you are. All right, people can be impressed by how good of a speaker you are, but then they'll also be confused, which means you failed to get your point across and nobody's going to remember anything you said and they're not going to agree with you. Point number 2. The topic here today is how to formulate an argument. Second thing, this is a very important one here. So the first one, maybe you never thought of, but this one right here, if you ever been in an argument with anyone, maybe you have been guilty of this and maybe they were guilty of it, but probably one of you was guilty of it. Maintain emotional control. Maintain emotional control. When you are in an argument with another person, they are not agreeing with you. They are going against every point that you make. Everything you say, they are invalidating it. You say something, they say something that's the exact opposite. You make a point, they make a point that goes directly against it. The worst thing that you can do in a situation when you are in an argument with another person is lose control of your emotions. Is you stop having control over what you're saying. You get angry at the person. You get upset because they're not agreeing with you. You start yelling at that person. You want to fight that person. You start making personal attacks on them because for whatever reason, you don't like what they're saying. If any of you gets on social media these days on any topic involving race, the police, or politics, I'm sure you see people doing this all day. And these are grown men and women who are supposed to be setting the example for the youth, but obviously they are failing. Maintaining emotional control is one of the things that many people do not do in arguments, especially these days. This is a failure point of most arguments, especially when people are heavily invested in the topic. Religion, race, politics are 3 that come to mind. When you become emotionally unhinged in a conversation, what happens is you lose access to your skills. This is the thing that people need to understand about emotions. Emotions are a good thing in certain aspects, certain contexts of life, and human beings are human. So we all have emotions, but it's learning to control the emotions. The thing about when you get emotional is that you don't have access to all your skills anymore. Emotions are this is a metaphor that I use in my book, Work on Your Game. Emotions are a great gas pedal, but they are a terrible steering wheel. Meaning, do not allow your emotions to direct which way you're going. Once you decide on the direction logically, then you utilize your emotions to push you faster and further in that direction. But when you allow your emotions to take control of your steering wheel, you will spin out of control and you might end up crashing into a wall. This is what happens to people when they get emotionally unhinged. And this often happens with people when they are talking to somebody who does not agree with them. They're not seeing eye to eye with you. They just are not getting your point. They just choose not to have the same opinion as you. And people just get upset when another person doesn't agree with them. This is why maintaining emotional control is so important. Now understand, I have a section in this book about managing your emotions. I talk a whole chapter about it in this book, Mirror Motivation. I'll tell you how you can get this for free later on. And in case you didn't know, I have a whole masterclass on maintaining emotional control. You're in the emotional management business. That is one of the masterclasses at Work on Your Game University. But I'll tell you about that later on. So understand at this point here about maintaining emotional control. If you're ever talking to someone who is a seasoned debater or a seasoned conversationalist or someone who has already had 1,000 conversations about the same topic that they're talking to you about, meaning let's say they talk about race every single day and politics and religion every day with people and they argue with people every day, and then you come along with your amateur skills and you start debating with that person, you can disagree with everything they say. They're never going to lose control because they're used to it. They're conditioned to know that people are going to disagree with them and they can maintain control. When they notice that you are losing control, when they notice that you don't have control of your emotions, you know what they're going to do? They're going to use your lack of control, emotional control. They're going to use it against you. This is what people do. People do this in relationships. People do this in conversations. People do this in business. People do this in any kind of confrontation. When they notice that you can't control your emotions, they will start doing things to get you to lose control more and lose control faster. Because we all know that when a person's not in control of their emotions, they're liable to do stupid things. They're liable to say things they shouldn't say, do things that they shouldn't do, and later on have to look back on it and say, damn, maybe I should not have said that. Maybe I should not have done that. But they weren't able to logically make that decision because their emotions override logic, ladies and gentlemen. So when your emotions get control of you, your intelligence goes away. Actually, it doesn't go away. It's just you can't see it. It's kind of like if somebody's talking in a whisper, but then somebody else is yelling, you can't hear the person that's whispering. You can see their lips moving, but you can't hear anything that they're saying because they're yelling above the whisper. Your emotions yell, your logic whispers. So you got to tell your emotions to shut the hell up so that you can get access to your logic. When you lose access to your logic, your emotions tell you what to do, which will probably, for most of us, being that we're human, probably leads you somewhere that you don't actually want to go. So learn how to control your emotions. Again, I got a master class on that. Everything I'm talking about, I got deeper classes on, just in case you're wondering. Number 3, the topic here today, how to make an argument, formulate a solid, strong argument, especially when somebody disagrees. Number 3, acknowledge the strengths of your opponent's argument. This is another thing that most people are not capable of doing, especially when they are emotionally unhinged. When you are strongly emotional on a certain subject, let's just say that people are arguing about politics. Somebody wants to vote for the Democrat, somebody wants to vote for the Republican. Now, especially these days, because now people are adding more stuff into it. It's not just politics now. Now it's race. Now it's years and years of this and that. And now it's people getting killed in the streets, people getting beat up. There's all kinds of stuff going on, all this finger pointing going on. Everybody has something to say. When two people get involved in that type of conversation, a person for the Republican side, somebody for the Democrat side, usually, if y'all listen to these conversations, maybe some of you have been in these conversations, you can probably agree with me that whoever's on whichever side cannot give not one positive thing to the other side. They can't say even one positive thing. When I meet somebody who's they're anti-Trump, I say, all right, tell me one positive thing about Donald Trump. They can't even say anything. They can't. I said somebody who's on the Donald Trump side, tell me one positive thing about Joe Biden. They can't do it. People can't even give credit to the other side for anything because they have become so emotionally engaged in attacking their opponent that they can't even say one positive thing about the other side. Now, let me explain to you why this is a bad thing. This is not good. If you're on the Republican side and you can't say one positive thing about the Democrats, that is not a good thing. That's not smart. You might think it makes you sound strong or it's funny or something like that. This is not good. Let me tell you why it's not good. Because when you say that you can't acknowledge one positive thing about your opponent, it hurts your credibility. It makes it sound like it frames it in people's minds. Okay, we know who you are. You're a person who's going to go so hard for one side that everything about the other side has to be negative and terrible. But here's the thing that y'all need to understand. Every person who has control of their emotions can look at the situation and understand, okay, look, they might say, look, I want to vote for the Democrat, but look, the Democrat has some positives and they also got some negatives, but overall, I like them. I'm not going to vote for the Republican, but I can say that they have some positives. There's some negatives too. Overall, I choose the Democrat. The way I feel is somewhere in between. I don't think either one of these people is perfect. Neither one of them is the devil, but I'm going to go with this one. But you can acknowledge some positives of the opponent. Okay. What happens when people get emotionally unhinged is that they can't give the other side anything positive. And there are people who I follow on social media, people who I'm cool with, friends of mine. I watch them on social media. They talk about politics and just social commentary all day. And when they get into talking about politics, let's say that they don't like Trump. Everything they say about him got to have some kind of snark, some kind of negativity, it just got to be something negative that goes with every single thing about him. And I'll say to them, yo, can you say one positive thing about the interview? You can't say nothing. And that point, when they can't do that, it hurts their credibility in my eyes. Because I'm like, okay, anything they say about that person, I know they're going to paint it as negative, even if it's not negative. They're just going to come up with something negative to say because they can't say anything else. This is a lack of emotional control. This is a lack of maturity. And if you're trying to build a solid argument, especially when you're talking to a person who may not be on your side, you must acknowledge the positives of both sides of a conversation. Because otherwise, why would anybody listen to you? Because they know exactly what you're doing. All right? People are not that stupid. Okay? They know that this side can't be all terrible. They know that they are not all terrible. So if you are arguing with another person, you can't just say everything that they said is wrong. Everything they said is dumb. Somebody said to me the other day, I posted something on Twitter like black people bringing up years and years of things that happened that but we're the only people who keep doing it. And something along that lines. And somebody said to me, well, if you can't see the stuff that's been going on, you must be completely blind to what's happening in the world today. Okay. So I remember reading that tweet, and this is a great example of it. So I'm blind because you don't agree with me. That must mean that I can't see anything. I'm an idiot. I'm blind. The first thing they said was, Dre, I respect everything you do, but if you don't see things my way, you must be blind. All right. So which one is it? Do you respect what I do, or I'm blind? All right. It can't be both. Okay. So I can't see anything, or you respect what I do. This is the dichotomy that you see in people all the time when they hear something that they don't like. You have to be able to acknowledge the strengths of your opponent. Think about a boxing match. Any of you ever done any combat fighting, like MMA, boxing, wrestling, anything like that? You can't go into a boxing match and say, well, my opponent's a bum. They can't punch. They can't play defense. They can't hurt me. They can't do anything. If you go into any type of physical altercation thinking like that, you're going to get your ass kicked. And that could alter your life. You get brain damage from that. It's different in a basketball game. In a basketball game, you just lose. You just get dunked on. In a fight, you go in there not acknowledging the strengths of your opponent, then you might get your head knocked off your shoulders. So look at your opponent anytime you're in an argument, the same way you look at the other boxer in the other corner before your fight starts or before your MMA match, that they are just as able to fuck you up as you are to fuck them up. All right, and make sure that you give them the proper respect. Give your opponent their argument the proper respect. And this is another way that, for those of you who want to think on an even higher level, that when you are getting into a conversation with another person and y'all don't agree, is that you acknowledge the strengths of their argument before they even do it. Has any of you ever seen the movie 8 Mile with Eminem, where it was loosely based on his life story? For those of you who didn't see it, I'll explain to you real quickly. Eminem was the star of the movie. It was based on his life story. He was this rapper, but he was living in a trailer park, and his mom was like a junkie, and he was basically a loser working at like some factory. He had a dead-end life going on. He had a girl, but his girl didn't have that much going on. He had a kid. He wanted to take care of his kid and make some money, but he was working his dead-end job at a factory, living in the trailer park. He was just a loser. But he had this one talent, is that he was a good rapper. So he would always go to the rap events around his community, and people knew he had talent. He had a few people who believed in him, but he never performed really well. Every time he got on the stage on an open mic night, he would freeze up and he wouldn't perform well. He wouldn't show all his raps. People would laugh at him, and he would just go deeper and deeper into a depression, like, damn, I'm be a loser. I can't even use the one talent that I have. I live in a damn trailer park. My girl's about nothing. I got a daughter that I can't take care of. What the hell am I going to do with my life? So his life is just going downward. And finally, a whole lot of stuff happened in the movie. Y'all can go watch it. But at the end of the movie, Eminem is getting in a rap battle again. And he's battling one of these guys that is his enemy. And this guy's his enemy because this dude had sex with Eminem's girlfriend. Eminem and this guy had been enemies throughout the movie. They didn't like each other. Everybody knew Eminem's reputation for always freezing up on the mic, so they didn't take him seriously at all. So finally they get to this final battle at the end of the movie. So what happens is Eminem has to go first. And in rap battle, and sometimes, usually from what I've seen, I'm not a rapper, but usually from what I've seen, the rapper who gets to go last usually has the advantage because you got to hear everything the other guy said. So Eminem got to go first. So he's at a disadvantageous position. But this is what he does. He knows the guy he's battling against. So before the other guy gets to rap, this is what Eminem does. He takes everything that he knows that guy's going to say, and he uses it against him. He says, all right, yeah, this dude did have sex with my girlfriend. Yes, this dude has more success than me. Yes, this guy, him and his friends beat me up. Yes, these guys are more popular than me. Yes, I did always freeze up on the mic. And Eminem took all that guy's ammunition, all the strengths of his argument. Eminem laid them bare on the stage for everybody to see. He took all the positives that guy could have used in his own argument and laid it out in front of everyone. And then he did his rap. So then when it was the other dude's chance to rap, dude couldn't say anything. He didn't have anything to say because Eminem took his whole argument and said it for him before he had a chance to say it. He basically disarmed his opponent. It's kind of like if you're in a gunfight with somebody, you just take their gun from them. They can't even shoot you because they don't have a gun anymore. So this is what you need to do when you're in an argument with another person. Do not just try to negate every positive about them. Actually acknowledge their positive. Acknowledge that, you know what, that's a good point. This right here is working for you. This I got to say you did well. This is something positive I can say about you. That's what a mature argument sounds like. You acknowledge the strengths of your opponent, because if your opponent was a complete bum and everything about them was terrible, why are you even talking to them? So if they were that much of a bum and everything about them was so bad, why would you even be engaging with them in the first place? Exactly. You would not be. So make sure When you're disagreeing with somebody, acknowledge their right to feel how they feel. All right, just another thing. When someone let's say you did something or you said something and people are just not feeling you for it, acknowledge that. Acknowledge with them. You know what? I understand you're kind of pissed off about what I said yesterday. You're mad that, I didn't show up to the event. You're annoyed because I did this or I did that or I didn't do this thing that I said I was going to do. Acknowledge other people's position, acknowledge other people's feelings, acknowledge other people's strengths or whatever it is that they're talking about, because it builds credibility for the audience if somebody happens to be listening to the conversation, and it builds credibility in the eyes of the person you're talking to, because now they're like, okay, you're at least acknowledging me and giving me some credit here and not just trying to tell me why I'm wrong. Any newsflash for any of you out there, you ever had a conversation with someone and all you did was try to tell them why they're wrong? That conversation probably didn't go too well for you. So how about you stop doing that? Point number 4. Today's topic is how to make a sound argument. Number 4, lose the hyperbole. For those of you who don't know what hyperbole is, you do know what it is. Maybe you never used the word, but let me give you a definition. Hyperbole is exaggerated statements or claims meant to be taken literally. Okay? Do not exaggerate your claims. Do not exaggerate your statements, because it hurts credibility when you become hyperbolic. Okay? I'll give you an example. Hyperbole can work in some areas. Hyperbole works in, for example, in comedy. If you're a comedian, you're Dave Chappelle, you're Kevin Hart, you Louis C.K., okay, use hyperbole because it's funny. We can laugh at that because we know we're listening to a comedy show. But if you're supposed want to be taken seriously and you're trying to give people some real information, you're trying to build a case for yourself and build credibility, do not use hyperbole, because people are going to know that you're doing it and they're going to say, okay, this is a person who will just exaggerate anything just to make a point. Now they're not listening to you the same way because they know what you're doing. Again, people are not always that smart, but at the same time, they're not stupid. So be careful with hyperbole. I'll give you an example. LeBron James, since he's famous, we'll use him as an example. He said when the Ahmaud Arbery thing happened a few months ago, he said, they are killing us every day. That's a statement that he made. Doesn't matter what he said before that, doesn't matter what he said after. Just taking that little piece out of context. They're killing us every day. First of all, who is they? And I guess he was referring to white people, or he was referring to cops, but it wasn't cops that killed that guy. He said us. So I guess he was referring to black people, that black people are being killed by white people every day. Well, we know that this is not true. We know that he was saying it for effect. We know he was saying it because maybe he was emotional, or he was hype, or he was just trying to get his point across to more people, to say something that was a little bit more sensational so the message could spread. I understand that. And any of you who's smart, you understand that as well. But at the same time, the hyperbole causes me to say, okay, now I know that when I hear LeBron James talk, he's going to exaggerate things just to make a point. So now I know that if I want to get some real information and hear something measured and logical, I can't get it from LeBron James because he's going to exaggerate. That's what it told. It planted that seed in my mind when I heard him say that. And then he did it again, and he did it again, and he's done it several times over and over again. And again, let me be clear. I'm not saying that he's wrong for doing this. He has a right to say whatever he wants to say. If he wants to be hyperbolic, he can. What I'm telling you is that when you're trying to formulate a solid argument and persuade people, you cannot use hyperbole, especially if they do not agree with you. Now, the people who agree with LeBron, they loved it. They say, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're killing us every day. They agree with everything that he said because they already agree with him. Now, you don't have to make an argument when you're talking to people who agree with you. When you're making an argument, you're talking to people who are not sure. They're either skeptical, or they are oblivious, or they're completely against you. Did LeBron convince anybody? If a cop was listening to that, do you think he convinced a cop with that? A police officer read that tweet. Do you think he was like, you know what, LeBron, yeah, we are killing y'all every day? You think any cop said that? No. The cop probably got defensive. Like, who is this dude saying that they're killing us every day? The cop's like, yo, I'm not killing anybody every day. Why would he say that, knowing that all these people are going to listen to that? And this is one of the things that I've mentioned when I talked about LeBron. I talked about the BLM stuff last week. Hyperbole, ladies and gentlemen, hyperbole is like salt. You know, salt that you put on your food? Salt is to be used sparingly. All right, don't put too much salt on your food. You put too much salt on the food, it doesn't taste good anymore because it's too much salt. All right, any of you ever made the mistake of putting too much salt on your food and you can't even eat it anymore because you used too much of it? All right, you got to be careful. All right, you got to, what my parents used to say is taste the food first, then put salt on it. All right, don't put salt on it before you taste it, because if you put too much salt on it and then it doesn't taste good, now you ruined it. All right, you can't take the salt off once you put it on. Everybody understand what I'm saying? I remember once I was in Mexico playing ball, and before the game they had this stand out there, and this guy was selling fruit. And he would have the fruit in a little plastic bag, like this big, long plastic bag, and it cost like 10 pesos. So I bought this bag of fruit, and I'm like, yeah, I'm about to eat this fruit before the game, and I'm good. And he had this shaker right here, like some sugar on the stand. He was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I could put some sugar on my fruit. And I'm a big sugar fiend. At least I was even crazier back then. This is like 14 years ago. So I poured all this sugar on this bag of fruit that I had just bought. I'm like, yeah, I'm about to eat this fruit with this sugar. I was salivating. My sweet tooth was all activated, and I started eating it, and I realized that was not fucking sugar. It was salt. So you ever put sugar on something and you find out it was salt? It does not taste good. So I had to throw that whole bag of fruit away, and I had to buy another one because I had messed it up because I put all that salt on my food without even knowing that it was salt. Hyperbole works the exact same way. When you use it too often, you ruin the dish that you were trying to eat. Be careful about hyperbole, okay? Do not go too far. Do not try to exaggerate it on a serious topic, especially if you're talking about something serious. This is why I said, like, Kevin Hart and Dave Chappelle use hyperbole all day because it's funny. We know that they're telling a joke. Now, when you're trying to be serious, especially when you're talking about something like death, you're talking about people dying, don't use hyperbole. When you're talking about people dying, like, that's not something to joke about. Nobody wants to joke about death. If you start a statement with all blank are doing blank, we already know you're using hyperbole. You say all black guys don't wear their pants around their hips. They got their pants hanging off their ass. Well, any black guy who doesn't do that is going to take offense. Now they're going to look at you like, okay, so now you're going to stereotype all of us because of what little bit of information you have. Now people are going to be like, now they can't listen to you anymore because you're using too much hyperbole. So be careful with hyperbole. It is a tool to be used sparingly. It's like putting salt on your food. Number 5, topic here is how to make a sound argument. Number 5, make no assumptions and be clear about those that you do make. Make no assumptions. Here is one that, man, when we look at the political climate that we got going on in the world right now, this would be a great one if all the politicians had to do this. But unfortunately, it's a part of politics to make assumptions and use hyperbole to try to win your election. That's just part of the game. Hopefully all you understand that. So when you hear politicians say things, do not take everything they say at face value. They say what they got to say to win an election, not because they actually believe it. But a lot of people believe what the politicians say, then they get mad when it turns out not to be true. But y'all are not going to fall for that anymore because I just told you that they say what they got to say just to win, not because it's actually what they believe. When it comes to making assumptions, ladies and gentlemen, every assumption that you make in an argument is a failure point. If you don't know what a failure point is, I just posted about this on IG today and on Facebook. I rode my bike on, it was Saturday or Sunday. One of those days, I was riding my bike the other day. It caught a flat tire. And one of the things that I explained in that post was that a bike is a failure point. So if I go outside and I run just by myself, there's only one failure point, my body. Something on my body has to go wrong for me to stop running. Now, if I ride my bike, now I got 2 failure points. Something on my body could go wrong and something with the bike can go wrong. So every time you add a new element to the situation, you have an additional failure point, an additional thing that can mess up the whole thing. Every assumption that you make when you are making an argument is a failure point. So if you make the assumption that this is true, then everything you say after that is based on this assumption. What if that assumption turns out to be wrong? What if that assumption turns out to be incorrect? What if that assumption was based on false information? Now what? Now your whole argument falls apart. You understand? So you got to be very careful every assumption that you make. And if you do make an assumption, be clear that you're making an assumption. Let it be known, like, yes, this is an assumption. Okay, I'm assuming that this happened. So because of this assumption, I'm going to move on and make the rest of my argument. But if you do make an assumption, you have to be very careful about the ones that you make. Every one of these that I'm saying is a key thing in arguments. I listen to people argue all the time. Sometimes people try to argue with me. I'm active on the internet every day. People try to argue with me. Most of the time, they do not have these tools. So most of the time, I don't go back and forth with them because I can see the weaknesses in the things that they're saying. So be careful with assumptions because everything you build on top of an assumption will fall down if the assumption is proven incorrect. And then people can discredit you. So if you build an argument based on an assumption, and that ends up wrong, now how much credibility do you have? If your whole argument was based on this being true and now it's not true anymore, now what? For example, Joe Biden and Donald Trump, they're both going to throw a whole bunch of assumptions about each other out over the next 2 months. Trust me, September, October is going to be the nastiest month of political campaigning you have ever seen in your life, and probably that you will ever see. What's about to happen in the next 2 months. And I'm not even that old, but I guarantee you nothing's been as ugly as what we're about to see the next 2 months. They're both going to throw a whole bunch of assumptions out about each other that may be proven untrue or may be proven true. And when that happens, the whole thing falls apart. I remember in 2012, It was Obama against Mitt Romney, and they were doing the debates. And I actually watched the debates. I don't really follow politics like that, but I watch the debates because I like seeing those. And debate is a great place. Any of y'all want to learn how to formulate an argument, watch the debates, and you can learn how to work a crowd and how to formulate arguments. So Mitt Romney said something about Obama. He said, "You did this, President Obama. You did it." He was pushing it hard. You did this. You did it. And he was holding it against him to build his case. And Obama didn't argue with him. Obama said, "Okay, go ahead," because he knew that the moderator was going to fact check everything that was being said. And Obama knew that what Romney was pushing was not true, but Romney thought it was true. So Romney builds his whole argument. He makes his whole long statement about this assumption he had made about Obama. And then the fact checker, after Romney finished talking, Obama was like, "Hey, can you fact check that thing that he said?" And the dude fact checked it, and it turned out Romney was wrong. And I remember this. It was no crowd. It was no audience for this. It was just those two guys. But I remember after that, I was like, all right, Obama's about to beat this guy. The dude just made an ass of himself on TV, making this whole argument about something that turned out not to even be true. I don't even remember what it was. And this is the thing I want y'all to get. This is like 8 years ago. I don't even remember what they were talking about, but I remember Romney looking like a dumbass because he tried to build this whole case on an assumption that was incorrect. You want to make sure you do not do this. All right, your assumptions based on false information, you will look like an idiot, and people won't even remember what you were talking about, but they will remember that you look like an idiot. They will remember that, okay? The saying is, people don't remember the things that you said. They don't even remember what you did, but they always remember how you made them feel. So if you make people feel like you're an idiot, they will remember that you're an idiot, all right, even if they don't remember what you said. So again, another one, Hillary Clinton, 2016 campaign. She won the popular vote. Many people say this over and over again. She won the popular vote. The reason she lost the election is not because Trump was just head and shoulders better than her. She lost the election period because her credibility was destroyed. The credibility she had built up over 30, 40, 50 years in politics, it was destroyed by some things that came out about her shortly before the election that destroyed her trust. People couldn't trust her. People thought she was a liar. People said she's fake because of a few little pieces of information that came out that destroyed all of her credibility. And that was the toehold that the Trump campaign, as all politicians would do, any politician would do, this wasn't about Trump, they used that to discredit everything about her. They said, all right, look at this. Y'all thought this about her. Now we just proved that's not true. So guess what? Everything else about her is probably a lie too. Even though that's not the case, that's how they do it. And this is how public perception works. If you build a foundation of trust and respect, as the saying goes, it takes a lifetime to build up a reputation and it takes 1 second to lose a reputation. Hillary Clinton lost her whole reputation on like one or two things that destroyed everything. And it made her whole career a quote unquote lie. But this is the way that it works in life. This is the way human nature works. It's not about politics, it's human nature. Point number 6. Topic here today is how to make an argument, how to formulate an argument. Angela Brickley was good over there on Facebook. Back up your arguments with clear, believable evidence. This is one that you're not going to see in the political debates. Trust me. So when you watch the political debates, understand they're not going to follow all of these rules, but you should follow them. When you make an argument and you make a point, you need to back up your point with evidence. You cannot just make a claim and then say, well, that's just my claim. That's just how I feel. Now, if you're talking about how you feel, that's cool. If you say, I feel that it's hot outside, that's fine. But if you say, all right, the reason why we lost the game is because you gave up too many points on defense or you missed too many 3-pointers, well, you got to have some proof of that. If you say somebody's a liar, or you got to prove that they lied, or what I lie about. I don't know. I just think you're a liar. No, you can't do that. You have to prove it. Anytime you make a claim about something that you did or something that you represent, or you're attacking the other person with something, you must prove it. And this is the thing that I just said about Hillary Clinton. Trump used this against her in the campaign. When her credibility came into question, all he did was just keep hitting it over and over and over again. She's not credible. She's a liar. She should be in jail. He called her Crooked Hillary, and that stuck. And that destroyed her whole campaign. Her whole career fell to pieces off of one little thing that they just kept hitting it and hitting it and hitting it. And this is the same thing with you. So anytime you have an argument, you back it up with believable evidence. The thing about Hillary, she didn't go to jail, but there was believable evidence that she had been deceitful, that she had tried to deceive the people, and people saw that, and the evidence was strong enough that it hurt her whole foundation fell apart. And who knows, it may happen to somebody in this coming up election, but this is the way that things work. When you are making a point, any point that you're going to make in an argument against anyone about any subject, if you claim something to be true, you better prove it. I was talking to one of my guys recently, and he was saying something about he was saying some stat, and I was like, "What's your source for the stat?" And he went and posted a link like 2 minutes later. Any of y'all ever been in I don't know if y'all had a kind of conversation that I was having. You in a text conversation with someone and you know they're lying. Or you not even lying, that they're just saying something and they ain't got no proof, but they're just saying it because they're trying to argue with you. And I say, all right, what's your source for that point? And he posted this link. And I opened the link that he posted. It was like a 25-page research paper from some university. And I said, yo, when did you read that paper? Did you ever read it? And of course he had never read it. And everybody else in the chat, we're all laughing at him like, yo, you never even read that paper. If you present evidence, you better be able to, if you present something that's true, you better have evidence. That's the point that I'm making here. No evidence, we don't believe you. If you present something that's fact and you can't prove it, that hurts your credibility. Now, everybody who saw you do that, now your reputation is, all right, this is a person who will just say anything when they're trying to win an argument. Do not do this. People remember it. Again, they might not say anything. They might not remember what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. People feel that you are lying or you'll just say anything to win an argument. They will remember that about you, and they'll know not even go there with you because they know you'll just say anything. So anytime you have a point, it got to be held up to the light. So when I said, for example, 3 days ago, I said something that some people disagree with. I said the Black Lives Matter movement, especially via the NBA, is a Democratic movement. So when they're saying go vote, they're not saying go vote for the Democrat, but they kind of are because the ringleader is LeBron, and LeBron James has rolled with Obama. LeBron James campaigned for Hillary Clinton. LeBron James has trashed Donald Trump on Twitter multiple times. All of those spell Democrat. LeBron is with the Democrats. And if LeBron's saying Black Lives Matter and everybody's following him, that is a Democratic political conversation. That's what he's doing. I'm presenting my evidence. Again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. This is just my evidence behind the point that I'm making. So if you make a point like that, you have to back it up. You can't just say stuff and say, sometimes where I'm from, people will say something. I'm like, how you know that? They're like, well, everybody knows. Everybody knows that. Anybody who can't see that, they must be blind. Anybody who can't see that, they're just ignoring the facts. You can't. That is not evidence. Okay. So if you ever use those lines, that's not evidence. All right. If you don't see that you're blind, is not evidence. Everybody knows is not evidence. If you don't see that, you're just ignoring the fact. That is not evidence. It's not a fact unless you can prove it. All right, everybody understand that. So when you are making an argument, make sure you have some beef, some meat on that bone, okay? Because if you're talking to someone who understands these points, they are going to challenge you if you throw some bullshit out there. Now, if you're talking to some idiot, you can throw some bullshit out there and get away with it. But when you're talking to somebody who's smart, and I'm assuming that y'all talk to people who are smart, I'm assuming you'll have smart friends. If you say some bullshit, they're going to call you on your bullshit. And if you can't prove it, then they're just going to see you as somebody who throws some bullshit out there, and they might stop talking to you by law of association. Point number 7, it's the last one. The topic here today is how to formulate an argument. When you're talking to someone who disagrees with you or you're just trying to prove a point, give the opposition an opening. This is a key thing right here for closing up your argument, okay? When you're making an argument with another person, especially if you and them are not seeing eye to eye and you want them to believe you, you want to bring them over to your side. So this is my assumption here, what I'm saying here. If you're making an argument, right, and you want the other person to change their mind, if you know you're right, you know you have the right information, you know you're on the right side of history, you're on the right side of righteousness, and you want to change the other person's mind because they're on the wrong side, you're on the right side. You truly believe that. Here's what you got to make sure you do. Do not burn the bridge between you and that individual in the course of making your argument. In other words, don't be so nasty and so caustic or get personal with that person to the point that even if your argument is correct, that they will never agree with you because you have been so nasty and so negative towards them. You want to go against them and beat them, but in such a way that you can still come back to them and say, yo, now can you see what I'm saying now, and get them on your side. But if you're too negative to another person, they will never agree with anything that you say, even if they want to, because of just human nature. Sheer perversity are not going to go with you. All right, do you think Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump could ever work together? Hell no. Why? Because they both got so personal and so nasty with each other that they could never deal with each other again. And they burned the bridge between each other. Maybe it doesn't matter to them. But I'll give you a different example. In 2008, when Obama ran for president, Hillary was trying to be the Democratic nominee. They went against each other for the Democratic nomination, and Obama beat Hillary. Even though Hillary had way more experience, he beat her. But then when he won, he hired Hillary. Hillary worked for Obama. She was the Secretary of State when he was the president. But he was able to do that because even though he had to go against her and they had to battle, he didn't get so nasty and so personal with her that he burned the bridge. He was still able to go back and be like, yo, Hillary, I beat you, but look, come work with me so we could do this together. And she was cool with that because she wasn't personally offended by anything Obama has said. Now, again, not Obama, but Trump and Hillary, that ain't never going to happen. But Obama and Hillary could happen because he didn't burn the bridge. So you got to be careful when you are getting into any type of argument with anybody that you don't burn that bridge by being so nasty or getting so personal that that person will never be able to agree with you again, even if they want to. Has any of you ever been in an argument with somebody, in a conversation with someone, and you know you made strong points? You know everything you said was airtight and perfect, and that person still couldn't go with you. They still was like resisting you. Any of you ever been through that? And that you're like, this person's just being stubborn. Are you just being an asshole just to be an asshole? Everybody has known a person like that, right? And you know why that people get like that? Is because if you go too hard against another person, that just human nature, they are not going to agree with you just out of perversity because they feel personally like they got to dig their heels in. Every human being has this in them. Some people do it a little bit more than others, but everybody has this capability. So your job is you want to give the opposition an opening. So if your argument is strong enough and solid enough, you got to give your opposition enough space to change their mind. Like, don't be like, all right, you got to change your mind. You're absolutely wrong. You're terrible. You're stupid. You're dumb. Give them the space. Like, hey, do you understand what I'm saying? You see how this makes sense? You see how this could work for you? You got to soften up your words sometimes. And especially men out there, those of you who have a lot of testosterone, this is something that you got to be very careful with because men tend to do this like naturally. Females, y'all probably already have this skill. Generally speaking, I'm not going to categorize all males or all females, but men, y'all know what I'm talking about. And any females listening to me, you also know what I'm talking about because men, y'all have talked to females and y'all see that they don't have that problem that we have. And females, y'all talk to men and y'all see that we do have this problem. So you have to be very careful in tailoring your words if that is you plan on being able to use that bridge again. Now, if you don't care, if that person hates you for life, then go ahead and just be nasty. But I wouldn't suggest you make enemies for no reason. So if your argument is solid enough, allow that person space to come back to your side. Do not name call. Don't do any ad hominem attacks. Don't get juvenile. No immature actions. All right, none of the stuff that you see in politics, don't do that. Okay? Watch politics and watch it like you're watching a TV show, like it's reality TV. Don't think that you should go exemplify what you see those people doing. Because like I told you, the next 60 days is going to be some of the nastiest shit you've ever seen. Now, all that being said, now, I've given you the 7 points, what to do to formulate an argument, make a strong argument with or against anything. Next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you how to get this book for free. Then I'm going to recap my points. And then if anyone has a question, go ahead and post it in the comment section. I'll address all questions. So if you got a question about anything that I've said here today on the topic of formulating a solid argument, go ahead and post it in the comment section. While I'm waiting for that, I'm going to tell you about this book. This right here is called The Mirror of Motivation. It is a self-guide to self-discipline. For those who don't know, this whole philosophy I created called Work on Your Game is based on 4 principles: discipline, confidence, mental toughness, personal initiative. The first one is discipline. So people ask me, Dre, you've written all these books, you got all these products, where do I begin? You begin with this right here, The Mirror of Motivation. This is the book about discipline. The subtitle is The Self-Guide to Self-Discipline. Now, what is this book about? What is it actually going to do for you? Because just the book being about discipline doesn't mean anything. What is it going to do for you? Everyone who's listening to me right now understands that to get somewhere in life, you got to have some kind of outcomes, right? You have something that you want. Everybody listening to me wants something. Now, in order to get things, you're not a fool. You understand you have to do something. Now, you're listening to a guy with work on your game on your hat. You understand you got to do some work. Everybody gets that? Here's the challenge. Most people in life set goals, things that they want, at least people who are successful. Then they start working hard, but they never ask themselves a key question that most people never even think about. The question is, who do I need to be? What type of person do I need to be in life? What kind of energy do I need to have? How do I need to see myself? How do I need to carry and conduct myself in order to get the results that I want through particular actions? And here's what I want you to understand. And this is something that you can tell me if I'm right or wrong about this. Have you ever in your life been trying to do something and working hard and it wasn't working, but then you changed your energy? Either you got more positive, you got more focused, maybe you got angry, maybe you got more disciplined, maybe for whatever reason you just felt more hopeful about things working out. And because your energy changed, you took the exact same actions as before and you got a completely different result. Has anybody ever had that happen? That is a change in being. This book is about changing your being. That's why it's called The Mirror of Motivation. All right, this is not Dre hyping you up motivation. This is the mirror of motivation. I'm going to show you a framework for how you can put yourself in that frame of mind anytime that you want and make it permanent so that you don't have to remember to do it. It becomes who you actually are every single day. If you're interested in that, all you got to do is go to mirrorofmotivation.com. The book is already paid for. I got a stack of them right over there. All you got to do is tell me where to ship the book. You cover the shipping. I've already paid for the book. We send this to you worldwide, anywhere you live. We just shipped out about 10 of these today. Mirrorofmotivation.com. The book's paid for. You cover the shipping. Again, one more time. Mirrorofmotivation.com. Just the title of the book. Take out the Mirrorofmotivation.com. Now I'm going to recap these points and I'm going to answer every question. So you got questions? Go ahead and post it right now. I'm going to recap these points very quickly. How to formulate a solid argument. Number one, keep it simple. Obama kept it simple. Donald Trump kept it simple. Nike kept it simple. Dre Baldwin keeps it simple. Number two, maintain emotional control. This is a failure point of most arguments. Number three, acknowledge the strong points of your opponent. Don't tell your opponent is just a complete idiot and fool. Acknowledge that they have some positives to their argument as well. Number four, lose the hyperbole. Do not exaggerate your claims because now you have no credibility. People know you will just exaggerate anything just to make a point. Number five, make no assumptions. And if you do make an assumption, be clear and honest about any assumption you're making, because if you don't, your opponent will use that against you and destroy you. Number six, back up your arguments with clear, believable evidence. Do not just throw things out that some random quote or random stat that you know is not true, that you can't prove, because you lose all credibility when you do that. Again, when you're talking to somebody with some intelligence. If you're talking to an idiot, you can get away with it. You're talking to smart people, you can't. Number seven, give the opposition an opening. If you want to change people's minds, give them an opening to change their mind. Do not force it on them. Do not tell them that they're dumb. Don't tell them that they're wrong or they're blind or they're stupid or they're an idiot or anybody who doesn't think LeBron's the best player in the world. You know nothing about basketball. Don't say that. That will not convince another person to agree with you. All right, that'll get them to go against you simply because of the way that you're talking to them. Do not do that. I know you see that on Instagram. I know you see it on Twitter. That is not the way to win an argument. All right, that's just the way to get people to, you might get a lot of likes and comments from doing that. It will not help you win an argument. It does not help you persuade other people to see your way of seeing things. So if that's your aim, follow the points that I just gave you. And if you want to hear me go over that in even more detail, I will probably do a whole masterclass on everything that you just heard here today. So today I gave you a little preview of that. If you like what you heard here, you should be in Work on Your Game University. And when we make our newer offers of what we're going to have at Work on Your Game University, you're going to love it. Trust me. We're working on it right now. So now I'm addressing questions. So if somebody got a question, go ahead and post it. Dave said, hope and change. Yeah. And his slogan was, yes, we can. Everybody remembers it. Let's see. Coffee the Great was good. If anybody got a question, I'm reading through them right now. Coffee said, imagine hating someone and not knowing why. That's people who hate Trump. Oh, well, that's kind of that's a blanket statement, Coffee the Great. Well, I think they got reasons, but their reasons may be based on information that they got from people who are not forming logical arguments, but that's a whole different conversation for a different day. I get what you're saying, Coffee the Great, but there's a lot of reasoning behind that people don't even know what they don't know. So if they're not aware, then it's a little bit different. Sports Lover said, I got in an argument with my supervisor because I jumped to conclusions. I feel guilty because I was at fault. Well, go admit it. That's what you should do. Oh, 7 years ago. Oh, you can still go admit it. Yeah, call him and say sorry, like Coffee the Great said. You say you don't have her number. Oh, all right. Well, listen, I don't know what to tell you. Go to confessional and confess to your religious leader. Coach Guest said, I know your pain. Oh, about the salt thing? Yeah, I thought that was sugar. It was salt. Coffee said, I've never seen two presidents with wild backgrounds like this. Debates will be exciting. But the debate's going to be exciting because of the public. I think the public is going to be paying so much attention to this election, probably more than the last one, more than Obama, just simply because people are so against each other right now. The Obama one, people were just interested just to see what was going to happen. Even the last one, I think people didn't think what happened was going to happen. I think people were just interested. This one, people are like angry. This election, people are angry on both sides. The Biden supporters are angry. The Trump supporters are angry. Everybody's angry. So I think when people get angry, they get focused. So this election will draw a ton of attention. I think this might be the most we ever see. Because Trump this is the last election he could be a part of. Well, he could technically run again, but I think this is it. He either wins or he loses, but nobody else is going to bring that kind of energy. Kev said, I think it's because men are naturally more competitive. Well, that's what I meant when I said testosterone. Testosterone drives competitiveness. Mozart Gates said, I hope Jim Crow is working on his sales mouthpiece. We already know Trump has been working on his game. Who's Jim Crow? Who are you talking about? Trump has been working on. Yeah, who you referring to? You say Jim Crow. I don't know what you mean. Coach Kev says, do you believe that the greatest way to learn anything is from trial and error, even though we're reading, watching, and listening? Coach Kev, I think it's a combination of both, because you can't learn everything through trial and error. There ain't enough time. You can't learn everything. You got to learn some things through watching and learning from other people. Then you can put those to action. You learn and you can make implementations, but you can't do everything trial and error, because there are too many things to learn for you to try to do everything by yourself. Mozart Gates try to give you a breakdown. It could be something like that. Chief Bogo was good. The Ballaholic says, do you believe that black men are wrongfully treated by police disproportionately to other races? Well, that's something that, well, first of all, when you say wrongfully treated, can you define what that means? Tell me what you mean when you say wrongfully treated, and I'll answer your question. So right there, what Ballaholic just asked me is an example of what I'm saying. So when people ask questions like this, you have to clarify what they mean. So wrongfully treated is a relative term. So when he tells me what he means when he says wrongfully treated, then I'm going to answer this question. But when you say disproportionately, that's something that we can measure by statistics. We can measure that by looking at numbers. So that's not about what somebody thinks. That's about something that can be proven. But the wrongfully treated part is a relative thing. So I need to know what you mean. Bradley Anderson says, do a meet and greet. People be always asking me about a meet and greet, but all y'all are in different places. So if I do a meet and greet, all of you can't come. This is the meet and greet right here. Y'all got the meet and greet. Right here on Instagram. This is the meet and greet. Money May says, do you remember the Summer is Serious event from Night? Yeah, I remember it. I was there. Chief says, COVID got everyone angry. No, I don't think COVID got anybody. Well, it got some people angry. You're right. It got some people angry. COVID has most people angry is what I'm referring to. Now, I think most people are more angry about race relations and race relations. We'll just call it that, or whatever side of race relations people are on. I think people are way more angry about that. Coffee said Jim Crow equals Joe Biden. Okay, well, see, that's my point. People have different positions and ideas here. Saleh says Oprah was running. She would be good for president though. I think Oprah will be okay. I think Oprah is very woke. I think that's the biggest challenge for Oprah, is that she's a little bit too woke. She's going to turn off. I think she would turn off too many people with the woke stuff. I mean, and Oprah's also black. I mean, black people are only 13% of the population. So even if all black people voted for her, that ain't enough. She got to win over some white people. And if you talk too much of that woke shit, people ain't really going to be trying to hear it. That's what I feel. As a black person, I even believe that. You can't be too woke. Joe Biden's woke, but he's still white. So he got that going for him. You know, Obama ran. Obama wasn't woke. Obama wasn't talking no Black Lives Matter. Obama was out there. He knew what he had to do to win that election. So y'all got to remember that sometimes in life is what you believe, but it's also what's going to work. And it's two different. It's not always the same thing. Ballaholic says, by wrongfully treated, I mean that they use excessive force when not necessary. So Ballaholic, you use another relative term, which is not necessary. Now, who's the judge of what's necessary and what's not? So now I got to ask you another question. What do you mean when you say not necessary? So this is a good example here, Ballaholic. This is not to go in on you, but often when people are making points and making claims, they use these relative terms that can be interpreted in many different ways. So when you say wrongfully is a relative term. I could say it's wrong for somebody to buy something from me and then say it was trash, and somebody else can say it was right because they feel it was trash. But who's right and who's wrong? Nobody is. We both have our own opinions. So when you say not necessary, who's the judge of what's necessary and what's not? So a cop might tell you to put your hands up and you don't do it, so they throw you on the ground. And you say that wasn't necessary, but the cop says it was necessary. So who's right and who's wrong? Y'all both have your own opinions. So you're going to have to flesh out that question a little bit more before I can answer it. Bradley said, my parents got a place in Daytona, Miami. That ain't far. I don't really know how far it is, but sure. You're relatively correct. Coach Kev says, if you're black, they shoot first, ask questions last. If you're white, they ask questions first and shoot last as a resort. Well, I mean, if you consume enough woke material online, I'm sure you would believe that. I don't think that's necessarily true, Coach Kev. I think again, depending on what you listen to, what you read, I can understand how some people can come to that conclusion and they would really believe it because there's plenty of proof, quote unquote proof. But understand that just because you have proof of one way of seeing things doesn't mean that your proof is wrong, but it also doesn't mean that there isn't a whole lot of proof on the other side of what you're saying. So I understand what you're saying, that some black people believe exactly what you just said, but there's a whole lot of proof that goes against what you just said that you may not be aware of, because you may not be listening to people who would share that kind of information. So that's where I would challenge your statement there. Ballhog says, Dre, you stay making me laugh. By not necessary, I mean that it could have been handled with lesser measures that would have been as detrimental to the health of the victim. Okay, well, the point is this, Ballhog, is that it's a judgment call. It's kind of like in basketball, the referee, you're playing defense and you steal the ball from somebody and the referee calls foul. And you say it wasn't a foul, it was all ball. And the referee says, no, it was a foul. Who's right and who's wrong? Now, even if you knew you had all ball, if they call foul, it's a foul. So that kind of comes down to a judgment call. And this is why we have courts and we have judges and we have juries and people go to court and we have trials and things like that. So, for example, the whole George Floyd situation, those cops going to go to trial. They get to say what they're going to say. We find out. This cop and the Wisconsin thing, we'll see. Did he even get arrested? So if he gets arrested, he goes to trial. But if he doesn't get arrested, then that's that. And people are going to be upset about that. But that's why we had a court system, so that the court system can decide, it can interpret the law. Or the cop's job is only to enforce the law. The judicial system interprets the law. So do I think that, so the question was, let me go back to your original question so I can just answer the first question, because the wording is pretty much the same. Do I think black men are wrongfully treated by police disproportionately to other races? My answer to the question, generally speaking, I'm gonna answer the question, and I'm gonna tell you why. My answer is no. And let me tell you why I'm saying no. I'm saying no because when people put out these statistics, it depends on who you're hearing your stats from. Y'all got to be careful who you're getting your information from. Not to say that people are wrong when they give information, but people omit information that does not jibe with their argument. So when somebody's trying to make the argument that black people are wrongfully treated by cops, all they give you is the information that makes you believe that. But they leave out a bunch of other information that would disprove that point. Now, if somebody's on the other side and they say black people are treated the same by cops, they're only going to give you the information that shows it's the same, but they leave out the information that shows that can make it look disproportionate. So this is the problem that we got in the world now, is that people pick and choose which information they're going to share based on the point that they're trying to make. So when I talk about the wokeness and the BLM audience and on social media, the majority of the material that gets shared and amplified there is woke-based material, because social media is very left-based. It is run by the left, political left, social media. So they amplify the things that go along with what they want to hear. So those of you who are on social media a lot, you will hear messages that make you feel what Ballahawk is asking, that black people are disproportionately treated unfairly by police. Now, if you look at the right stats, you would have plenty of proof to back that up. But if you look at other stats, you would see that's not necessarily true. For example, I'm not going to quote a specific stat, but you can look this up if you wish, Ballahawk or anyone else, that the number of interactions with police where someone gets killed or brutalized, or let's just say killed, when you look at the raw number of Americans, white Americans and black Americans, the number of people who get killed, white and black, that way more black people are getting killed based on percentage of population than white people. So black people look at that stat and they say, damn, we're 13% of the population, but we're like half of the killings. That's crazy. They're killing black people crazy. They're killing us all the time, like LeBron James says. That stat backs up that idea. So you're like, here's proof, Dre. What are you talking about? However, there's more stats that you have to look at. There's another stat that shows if you isolate the statistics based on the number of interactions with police, not just number of people killed, period, but police interactions, then the numbers even out. Meaning there are black people as a percentage of the population have way more interactions with police than white people do as a percentage of the population, simply because for whatever reason, we could have a whole conversation about this, cops interact with black people more than they're interacting with other people. Now, why is this? Is it because more crime is happening in black neighborhoods? Is it because police are hanging around there? Because they're stopping and frisking? Because they're profiling people? Because they're looking for crime? I don't know. I can't make that argument. There's a lot of conversation that can go into that. What I do know is that because there are more interactions with police, that's why more people end up getting killed. So when you adjust for that stat, the number of actual interactions, then the stat makes a little bit more sense. But if you only look at the raw number, 13% of the population and 50% of the killings. You're like, yo, that's ridiculous. They're killing us all day. And it sounds like it makes sense, but you got to look at more stats. There's a book out there for any of you who's interested in reading. The book is titled How to Lie with Statistics. And the book is all about how people can pick and choose stats to paint any picture that they want. So all of you got to be very careful where you're getting your information from. And when you get information from someone that seems to be leaning really heavily in one direction, here's what you need to do. Go find someone who thinks the exact opposite and listen to what they got to say so that you get both sides of the conversation. So if you hear LeBron James say something, then go watch Fox News and listen to what they got to say. Because LeBron is basically the opposite of Fox. LeBron is basically CNN. Again, that's not a knock on LeBron. That's where he's decided to position himself. So when you hear him say something, go listen to somebody who's a Trump supporter and listen to what they got to say. And they're going to be saying the exact opposite. Now, who do you believe? That's a question you got to answer. Bradley says, next year we are heading down. Can we link? Now, Bradley Anderson, my time is not just openly available like that. I appreciate you asking, but I don't just meet people randomly like that. I'm running a business here. But I appreciate you asking. Ball Hog said, what Kev said is absolutely true. Based on what? You have to, if you're going to say something, I just did this. Are y'all listening to what I just said? If you're going to say something that's true, you got to prove it. All right? Just agreeing with somebody does not mean it's proof. You got to prove it. And I just explained to you how somebody could give you information that makes you think one thing, but it may not actually be the whole truth. Maybe some of the truth might not be all the truth. So they're not lying to you. It's just not giving you all the information. And they might not even know that they don't have all the information. This is the crazy part of what we got going on right now. I hope everybody understands what I just said. Ball Hog says, well, what is true is that cops have used guns on unarmed people at higher rates with blacks than other races by percentage. Well, Ball Hog, if you say something like that, as I just explained in this live, is that you have to prove it. Now, you can say that and it sounds good, but now you got to prove it. Now, if you're talking to some idiots on the street corner, you can say that and they'll be like, yeah, that's right. If you're talking to somebody who's smart, they're going to say, let me see the stats. Now, you're talking to someone who's smart, so I'm telling you, show me where you can prove that stat. Because if you can't prove it, then I can't accept that as truth. Coffee the Great says, everything being shared is a leftist biased source. But Coffee the Great, but this is a good example. Coffee the Great is offering an alternative opinion that's on the exact opposite side. I wouldn't say everything, but I would say a lot of social media is run by the left. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube are all run by the left. They're all what's the place called? Silicon Valley based companies, and Silicon Valley is very leftist. Any of y'all wonder, I said this last week, any of y'all wonder why in 2016, when Trump was running against Hillary, it didn't seem Trump had a chance. It was like a joke. But then Trump won and everybody was like, what the hell happened? It's because the media, social media and the regular TV media made it seem like Trump did not have a chance. But there's a whole legion of people that y'all don't know, that y'all don't follow, y'all don't listen to, who thought Trump was the better candidate and they went and voted for him. And then people who are only indoctrinated by what they heard by the left were like, what the hell just happened? Because you are living in a mental bubble. You're only getting information from people who agree with you. Y'all got to be careful of that. And I was guilty of that. I was in that bubble. So when Trump won, I was like, how the hell did he win? I thought it was a joke. I thought he didn't have a chance. And then I realized that there was a whole half of the country who actually liked Trump. But all I was hearing was people who hated Trump and thought he was a joke. So I realized that I was the one in the bubble. So I had to get out of that bubble. I still listen to people on both sides. I try to get as much varied information as I can. So when I hear some leftist talk from LeBron James or the New York Times, then I got to go hear some conservative talk from Fox News or who's somebody else, Tucker Carlson, whoever. Whoever's leftist. The woman who says shut up and dribble. I'll go listen to her. Ball Hog says, police stop and frisk black people disgustingly higher rates too, so the interactions itself is also unfair. Now, stop and frisk absolutely targeted black people. I agree with that one. But Ball Hog, let me tell you something. Do you know who initiated the stop and frisk laws? A Democrat. So if we're gonna put all this information out there, we got to be honest about all of it. The stop and frisk laws in New York City were instituted by a Democratic mayor, but a whole bunch of black people who say stop and frisk was racist. Now they about to go vote for a Democratic president. So who's the idiot here? That's the argument that I made 2 weeks ago when I said why Trump's going to win. What's my opinion on America teaming up with Israel? I don't know anything about that, Saleh. I can't answer it. And that's another good point about arguments is that if you don't have information, be clear that you don't have information. Don't try to speak on things you don't know what you're talking about. I don't know nothing about that, Saleh, so I cannot speak on it. Money said, in aggregate, the majority of people do not want to adhere and abide to underlying stats because they are incentivized by their own confirmation bias. That is a good point. I would agree with that point. People have a confirmation bias. So, I mean, if somebody thinks Trump is racist, they don't want to hear any evidence that he might not be racist. And that's why we did this live today. So you can make an argument to open people's minds, but most people don't want to open their minds. This is what it is. Chief says, polls are always showing Trump trailing Biden. Yeah, it's a familiar picture of what happened in 2016. Nobody said Trump was going to win in 2016. The polls didn't say it. The news didn't say it. Nobody said it, and then he won. So I wouldn't be too swayed by the polls. Coach Kara said, you made a great point. You said they look for black people more. I think that's the question we all need an answer to. Are they purposely seeking out black people to put in jail or arrest? Well, any of you ever watched the TV show The Wire? They're going to understand how cops are graded. Police officers show that they're doing good work by writing tickets and arresting people, and people that they arrest getting convicted and sent to jail. That's how they make themselves look good. So a cop shows their boss that they're doing good police work all day. Like, what were you doing all day while you was out 8 hours a day in that car? What were you doing? And a cop can say, look, I arrested 5 people. I wrote 10 parking tickets. I pulled 2 people over for speeding. I pulled this dude over. He had marijuana and a gun in the car. These stats. These are the stats for cops. You know how basketball players got stats like points, rebounds, and assists? A cop's stats are citations, arrests, how many years they put people behind bars. I'm not saying all cops. On the TV show The Wire, they were showing this. I'm not a cop. I don't work in the police department. I'm not saying all police departments are like this, but on that show, this is what they showed, that this is how cops get their stats. So why did the stop and frisk rules happen? Let me explain to y'all why that happened. Because the mayor in New York got hired. I don't even know which one. I think it was Giuliani who did this. It was either Giuliani or the guy after him. Whoever lives in New York, tell me that guy's name. But the mayor in New York wanted to show that he was tough on crime. All right, so y'all got to understand the game. All right, and I'm going to take the questions after this. Y'all got to understand the game here. All right, the game is not about attack black people or attack white people. It's not about that. It looks like that. That's what ends up happening, but that's not the game. The game is the mayor wanted to prove that he was tough on crime. So to prove that you're tough on crime, it ain't like you bring a camera around all day and follow the cops like, hey, look, we arrested him, we arrested him. That's not what they do. All they do is show stats. All right, crime is up 10%, crime is down 9%. You heard those stats? So how does a mayor show that they're being tough on crime? Is that they show that they have arrested more people and put more people in jail. That's how they prove they're tough on crime. So how do you put more people in jail? You send cops around to places where you think crime is happening. Then you just stop people for no reason, check them for guns, weapons, marijuana. You arrest them for some bullshit like having $5 worth of weed. You send them to jail. Now that adds to your stats. Look, we arrested more people. We fought crime. Look how tough we are on crime. We got cops arresting people left and right. So now the citizens who are not doing crime, they're like, oh, damn. That mayor arrested way more people. They're tough on crime. Let's vote for him again so he can be in power for 4 more years. And now that governor or mayor who's just trying to stay in office, they win and they get more votes and they get elected more just by sending more people to jail. It doesn't matter who they are. Doesn't matter if they're black or white. They just want to catch crime, period. So it trickles down. And for those of you who never worked in corporate America, they have a saying that says shit trickles downhill. All right. Shit flows downhill. Meaning, if the mayor says we need to be tough on crime, the mayor doesn't go talk to a cop that's writing parking tickets. Hey, go fight crime. That's not what happens. The mayor talks to the police chief. The police chief talks to the sergeant. The sergeant talks to the lieutenant. The lieutenant tells the cops, and he tells the cops, yo, we need to be tough on crime because if y'all not, I'm going to get fired. And then they go do what they got to do because if they don't do their job, they going to get fired. So they got to do what the lieutenant says. Lieutenant got to do what the sergeant says. The sergeant says, sergeant got to do what the chief says. The chief got to do what the mayor says because if any one of them mess up, they're going to get fired. If the mayor messes up, the people will fire him. If the chief messes up, the mayor fires him. So everybody got to do what the person above them says, and it's all political. It is not about the actual people. So if it happens to target black people, that's the way it ends up going. But it's not because these politicians hate black people. It's just that they think, all right, this is where crime is most likely to happen. Let's go get them and let's arrest people. Let's put them in jail so we can look good and we can win another election. This is all for people's careers. It has nothing to do with the actual individual people. But this is all part of the game, y'all. Y'all got to get informed on this stuff. This is not, no, I don't work in politics. I know these things because I read things and I pay attention to stuff. But you got to listen to every side of a conversation, not just the side that you agree with already. Ball Hog says, I hear you. I get your points on how to improve arguments. We're two smart people. I respect you. I learned a lot from you. I appreciate you. Ball Hog says, I don't get my info from LeBron, though. All right, good. Don't get info from LeBron James. Unless it's basketball. If he's talking about playing ball, listen to LeBron. He knows his stuff on basketball. But I don't want to hear LeBron talk about nothing else. What's stop and frisk? Stop and frisk is when cops stop a random person in the street and they frisk you. Like, put your hands on the wall and they pat you down and try to see if you got any guns or drugs on you and arrest you if you do. But they had no probable cause to stop you in the first place. Stop and frisk was started in New York City. That's the place where it was most perpetuated, and it actually arrested a lot of people. And there are a lot of people in jail right now because of stop and frisk. He said, yeah, you don't tie the Democrats good. They've been playing black people for so long. And you live in New York, so you know about stop and frisk. So Baller Hall, tell Coffee the Great about stop and frisk, because he asked what it is. And this is interesting here, because people who aren't from these communities might not even know what this stuff is, but this stuff has been affecting black people for a long time. So when black people say things like systemic racism and things like that, they have a point. I don't say those things, but I understand when people do say them because they got a point. And especially if you've been directly affected by these things. I get it. Ball Hog says, I think Trump will win again. By the way, you predicted in 2016. By the way, you seen The Wire as well. Yeah, so that whole season on The Wire were the cops, and you saw it. It was a bunch of bullshit. They was arresting people for nothing, just so they can get their stats. They was just doing bullshit just to get stats. That was the whole game. Sports Lover said, I'm gonna confess tomorrow. Thanks for the recommendation. Are you religious? I am not, but I hope you confess and it makes you feel better. Yeah, Bloomberg, that's the guy. Bloomberg, Giuliani, both of them did it. And Bloomberg, if y'all don't remember, he was about to run for president. He was claiming he was going to run for president. As soon as he announced he was running for president, all the black people who he thought he would have their vote, they came out and said, this is the dude who started Stop and Frisk. Hell no, we not voting for this motherfucker. And he dropped out. It happened that quick. Any of y'all look up Mike Bloomberg. He was allegedly running for president. Y'all don't even remember. Most of y'all don't even know, because he was in the race for so short of a time. Because as soon as he announced that, everybody said, you the one who did Stop and Frisk. Hell no, we not voting for you. And it was over for Mike Bloomberg. It was over before it even started. Rest in peace, Mike Bloomberg. He's not dead, but his campaign is dead. Saleh said, Israel is taking over more and more percentage of the Palestinian land helped by America. Well, I can't formulate anything just off of that, Saleh. I can't tell you anything else. Stop and frisk, 3 strikes. Well, I guess 3 strikes started, Bill Clinton did that. 3 strikes was started by a Democrat. This is my whole point. So it amazes me at times when I hear black people pushing for Democrats when stop and frisk, the 3 strikes law, all of these things were started by the Democratic Party, but now they're telling everybody to go vote for a Democratic president. And Joe Biden was involved in all this. Before he was with Obama, Joe Biden had been in politics his whole life. He was involved in all of this. Interesting point on things trickling down. Yeah, The Wire demonstrated this beautifully. Coach Kev said, you said everyone's out for themselves, which is true. They have to make sure they're good, and who cares what the repercussions are in what country we live in. Well, that's not the country. That's the whole world, Coach Kev. That's everybody. Everybody's out for themselves. Even when people do things for other people, they're doing it for themselves. Right? When you hear somebody gave money to charity, how you find out about it? Because they wanted to make sure you knew. They want to make sure you knew they did something good for somebody else. Everybody's out for them. Every human being. I am, you are, everybody is. Walking while black. Yeah, that was the thing. Stop and frisk sounds whack. Yeah, well, that was happening, Coffee the Great. If you was black living in New York, you would have got frisked. Money said, are you implying that cops will be fired and expunged from the department if they do not attain enough drug bust access? Not exactly, but they are pressured. That's the best way I can explain it. You watch The Wire, they give a good picture of it. They are pressured by their higher ups that, we need to get these stats because this is what the higher ups told us to do. So we telling y'all to do it. And this is the whole game. This is the way it works. It works like this in politics. It works like this in education. It works like this in policing. And the TV show The Wire illustrated this even better than I'm saying it. So go watch the TV show The Wire, Money Made, you'll understand. They explained it even better than me. Coffee says, is that only in certain states? That's not, I don't think it's in New Mexico. Coffee the Great, ain't no stop and frisk in New Mexico. Stop and frisk was made to police black people in big cities, all right, not New Mexico. No wonder you never heard of it, all right? New York, there's only places like New York. I don't think they still got it. Baller Hawk, they still got stop and frisk in New York. Said stop and frisk was sick. I've been stop and frisk many times in my life, and I never committed no crime. Yeah, but see, if you would have had $5 worth of weed on you, you would have a record right now. Said Biden been involved in all this. I don't like either candidate, will not be voting. I feel you. Coach Carroll said when they put stop and frisking, people were scared to drive, even from Jersey. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jersey as well. New York and New Jersey, stop and frisk was targeting black people to find crime, even though the person that they stopped wasn't even doing anything. So people thought it was unconstitutional. But anybody who's from New York, New Jersey, Philly, Boston, DC, y'all know what this is. Those of y'all who are not from that part of the country never even heard of this. And that's crazy, right? That shit was going on in the 90s. This was before social media. And some of y'all never even heard of it. This stuff been going on forever. So when y'all hear black people talking systemic racism, oppression, and all these things, and you're wondering where it's coming from, is things like this that some of y'all never even heard of. So again, I understand when black people say it. I definitely understand it. Mozart said they got Jose and Frisk. Yeah, they ain't got nothing in New Mexico. Not that. Jose over there on Facebook. So he said Jose over here on Facebook. I appreciate you. So, all right. So we wrapping this up, y'all. We've been on here for over an hour. So it's 6:30 already. So that's crazy. It shows how, like you said, everyone's perspectives are so different. Yeah, so I'm glad we had this conversation. I appreciate the questions that everybody posted here today. There are, like I said, and like Ball Hog just said, so many different perspectives out here, and many of you who are from one side or the other of the social justice conversation, there's some things that you might not know about from the people on the other side, and now you got a better understanding of why they feel how they feel and why they say what they say, because you didn't even see the things that they've experienced. So this is why we got to have these conversations, and that's why I try to do my best to position myself as someone who's not. I'm not going to go so hard on this side or that side, so the people from either side feels comfortable coming in here, asking a question, leaving a comment, so that we can have these more productive conversations instead of attacking each other, instead of shit that's been happening in the streets, like in Portland and where's the other places that stuff's happening. They out there fighting each other, and it's all white people beating each other up over Black Lives Matter, which is hilarious to me. But anyway, maybe we'll talk about that on a different day. So we're going to wrap this out. Everybody, we will do another live tomorrow. I don't know what the topic is. If you follow my story, I usually put out a question asking people what y'all want me to talk about, and we'll get to it from there. Everybody have a great day. Stay safe. If you get stopped by a cop, just comply. All right, don't argue with the cop. All right, wear your mask too. Work on your game, everybody. Doing it live again tomorrow. Appreciate you. Work on your game. We out.